In terms of microaggressions, these are everyday verbal, nonverbal, environmental snubs or insults or slights, and whether they're intentional or unintentional in their effects, that communicate sort of a derogatory or a hostile message that targets a person or a group solely on their marginalized group membership. So some examples of that would be, so let's say in the classroom, so a teacher using inappropriate humor in the class that degrades students from a different group, or setting low expectations for students from particular groups. That is absolutely a microaggression. Or in this one, this complimenting Black students on their use of good English. So that, wow, you're really articulate, and saying that to a Black child is a condemnation of that child's race, because that statement means that the teacher thinks most Black people aren't articulate. And there are two that I've heard from parents' complaints, and one, and I'm sure many people will agree with this one, that when a teacher fails to learn how to pronounce a student's name or continues to mispronounce it even after they've been corrected. And another one, and this is what sometimes people say, I don't know, what do you mean by environmental microaggression? So that would be having students engaged in required reading where the protagonists are always white. They're never Black. And so those are the kinds of things that end up making students feel uncomfortable in the class. It makes them hesitant to answer questions or to even ask a question, make them feel that their contributions aren't, or opinions aren't valid, or feeling inferior because of what they say, or feeling that they don't belong, which then they don't belong in the class, they don't belong in the school, they don't feel welcome. When you ask what are some of the outcomes of that, I think truthfully, we know them all, that students don't want to go to school, that they end up not doing well, that they strike out sometimes because of the way in which they're being treated. They get high levels of suspensions and expulsions, but it's not about them, it's about what's happened to them. I said, okay, you know what, I'm going to make a list of the 3 things that, or specific recommendations that I believe that teachers should do. And the first one is, don't expect students to be experts on any experiences beyond their own. Like, they're not responsible to speak for their entire race or their entire group. And that is a complaint that we often hear. And then make it clear that you're invested in all students succeeding and that you believe that they can, by making it clear in the way you talk to each and every one of them. And then this last one, and I think it's so important, and it's when students have the courage, and it really takes courage, to let the teacher know that you've offended them by a remark or an action, please, just listen to them and don't be defensive. Try to increase your understanding through dialogue. I think those 3 things are so very important, because I truly believe that some teachers, and I don't know what the percentage are, truly don't realize what they're doing. But we as parents have to call on schools to teach teachers about what microaggressions are, among many things, and how to avoid them.